Hey, Coach.
How's it going, Yosh? All
Good,
right,
good, good. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Athletic Definition. My name is Coach Ray Z, and today my guest is Yosh. And Yosh, you're actually making a world history here because you're the first returning guest on Athletic
All
Definition.
right.
So thank you for that. And I actually requested to have you on here because right now it's the holidays, and unfortunately, it's the time where Grinches like to try and take advantage and ruin people's Christmas and steal the joy out of it. And I thought, you know, what better than to try and spare people some of that difficult time than by giving them some tips that maybe could help them avoid being a victim.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, happy holidays. And I know we're just out of the last day of the Festival of Lights or Hanukkah. So that finished up last night for all of our Jewish friends. So I hope they had a great holiday season. And now we roll into Christmas. And as I've been talking about on Clubhouse, when I've been talking to the people that I deal with on that, is that this is the season of giving, but for criminals, it's the season of taking. And we need to be a little more hyper vigilant at this time of year because they know this is the time when they can make hay, when they can go out there and find target rich environments, whether it's at the mall or in your actual home, because they know there's a probably good likelihood that you're going to have brand new purchase gifts. If you're celebrating Christmas, you've done them the nice satisfaction of putting those right underneath the tree so they don't even know where to look for them. And it's a time of year that we really want to make sure that we do whatever we can to not become the victim of a crime. Because if you look at the Christmases that you've had, sometimes when bad things happen, when we reflect on the Christmases, the Thanksgivings, the Christmases, the New Year's, if there was something that was happened, a car got broken into, we had a home robbery, we experienced a fire, those are the things you tend to remember as human beings. We tend to remember the negative before the positive. So I've been talking about one part of I think I gave you the link to a document. One part of that document was talking about food safety, which I think something that we don't think about a lot. But at the holidays, we're going to have a lot of people in our kitchen preparing food, and we need to make sure that we're preparing it correctly so that we don't end up with somebody getting sick. Because in my own family, uh, 10 years ago or more, I have a younger sister, and she got food poisoning during Thanksgiving. And she was on her back for 3 days, as sick as a dog. And so when we talk about Thanksgiving now, my mother and my sister tend to remember that Thanksgiving that she was flat on her back and not the 40, 50 ones that we've had before that were fantastic. So if we can do something to not create a situation where we're going to create a bad memory for ourselves, because those are the ones we tend to remember, and we just glance over all the other tens of not 20, 30, 40, 50 Christmases and holidays that we've had that we really enjoyed.
I totally agree with you, and I just put up the link so anyone in the audience, if you want to, I asked Yosh for some safety tips, and I was thinking that it was going to be a couple, but it's a 17-page colored document with uh, a variety of different subjects. I was thinking, just basically, like to me, when I think of like holiday safety, I kind of more think of just people stealing, especially now with how you see how they're just going straight into the stores and group attacking. But you have in there pet safety, travel safety, gift safety, things that I didn't even really consider for these holidays. And it's free, so if you want to click on the link, you can. It's got a lot of good information, way more than I thought it would have.
Yeah, and actually, it's the second version because I did the first version, and then I started to do some rooms where people were talking on Clubhouse, and they were coming up with some amazing stuff. And I thought, boy, I need to go and augment this. And some of the things I realized the day that I posted it and started talking about it, I was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of things I didn't include. And that's how it ballooned to be 17 pages, was because there was so much information to try to impart on people and just trying to make sure that we safeguard ourselves and our family so that we do have our best opportunity at having a good holiday season. So yeah, so I thought I would go through some of those points with you on this, and then if anybody wants to have the complete document, they can just download
Perfect. Now, before we get started, I thank you for wearing the Santa hat. And
it. You're welcome.
you mentioned Hanukkah, and just to keep it a little light as well. Did did you do you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or
We celebrate Christmas in our household,
Christmas?
but I do
And
know I was aware that the Festival of Lights, the 8 days, finished up yesterday.
well, being Mexican American, what we and Mexican kind of what we do is the 24th is really big for us, and then we stay up till midnight and we open presents. So is that how you celebrate it, or
Our tradition has been, and since we live in Southern California for 3 decades now, we traditionally have tamales on Christmas Eve, and then we do a one present deal. And since my boys were little, they're grown men now. They're both going to be here for Christmas, thankfully. But it was a tradition which has kind of become kind of a fun little thing. Though, my wife gives them pajamas. They have matching pajamas, so they're now because they're older. Their pajama gift will be the one that we open up on Christmas Eve, and they know what's coming. And every year they get matching pajamas. So we still do that, even though they're in their 30s now.
yeah, the running gags are always entertaining and fun. And the reason this idea came up for me as well is because one of my past guests, Julie Stewart, who's a stunt woman, uh, she was holiday shopping and she got caught off guard. And I actually want to bring her back on so she could, tell the whole story. But she basically said she had to punch some guy and kick him and run, and she got in the car, and then she was able to get away. And she told like her daughters, and they didn't believe her. Um, so I think probably in the holidays, probably where we should get started because people are going to start doing their holiday shopping. Those that don't shop online actually are going to go to stores.
Yeah, and that just you relating that story just brought something to mind. I was reading a book called Becoming Bulletproof, and their name is Evan Pomporis, and she was quoting a stat which I need to go back and write down, but something like 80% of children that resist being put in a car in an abduction don't get abducted. So one thing I do bring on is like in your friend's case, she was able to defend herself because she was more than capable. But if you are ever in a situation where someone's trying to put you into your car or another car and take you to a secondary location, you need to make sure that you're no holds barred. You do everything that you can to not go. Scream, yell, fight dirty, gouge eyes, kick people in the testicles, whatever you need to do. Because if somebody moves you from the location that you're known to somewhere that nobody knows, it usually doesn't end up well. So that's just one super safety tip for all year round is don't let people take you from the location that you're at to another location. Um, sorry, back to your question. I got so sidetracked when I heard you talking about your friend.
Yeah,
What
I
was
mean,
it you
who
wanted to get
knows?
into?
Yeah, no, I mean, who knows what their intention was? If you're walking out of a shopping mall, it may be abduction. I didn't even think about that. Or it could have just been like, give me your money, or depending
Yes.
on people around, it could be your life. So I didn't even think about that whole abduction part. So I'm glad you brought
There are
that up.
three things when somebody approaches you that's a criminal, right? They want your property, they want your body, or they want to hurt you. Now, fortunately for us, the majority of cases, people just want your property. So if they've got the drop on you, there's no way that you can defend yourself. Maybe you've got small children with you. Your best solution to that is to comply, to give them what they want. It's just property, right? You can't replace yourself, you can't replace your children, but you can replace whatever you just bought at the store. So give it to them because your odds are they're going to take that and they're going to leave. Now, unfortunately, we have sick people in our society and all over the world where they might also want to hurt you. Uh, if in the other case, they might want to take you. You know, we hear about the sex slave industry going on in this country all the time. They may be trying to take you for that purpose. So that's when we have to say, it's no holds barred. You're going to do whatever it takes. You're going to use improvised weapons. You're going to use the dirtiest tricks you can think of. You're going to scream your bloody head off because you do not want to be taken. So, but fortunately, that is much fewer of the cases. Mostly they take your stuff and they leave.
Yeah, I mean, myself personally, I have been. We've talked about this on the prior episode. I have been robbed at gunpoint, at knife point a couple times throughout my life. They wanted my gold chain. I was at work. I was delivering medicine to people throughout Southern California, and I stopped at a gas station. And one guy came up and he tried to just yank my chain, but it was pretty thick back then, the chain, and it didn't break. But what it caused was my neck to stick out the window, and then when I stuck out the window, looking down, I could see the gun straight through the door. And then another
Hmm.
guy comes around from the right hand side and tries to open that door. And I just go, here, you can have it. And I try to, it was my dad who passed away when I was 18. He gave me like this, like, this cross, and it had like, uh, diamond, diamond eyes, and like ruby for blood. And it was
Hmm.
like a solid gold, and they took it. And I try to kind of like catch it, but he saw me trying to pull a quick one, and I don't even know why I was trying that when I saw the gun, but it was probably like sentimental at the time. This was like a long time ago. But yeah, I gave it to him. Luckily, I didn't get hurt, and they got away, and I got fired. I got fired.
Oh, jeez. It's
The
so
next
difficult
day,
when
yeah,
it's so difficult when you're sentimentally attached to something, but
it is
in your heart of hearts, your father would rather you gave that up than to be hurt.
true. In that moment where you get caught up, in that what is it, that the lizard brain takes over, flight or fright. It's yeah. Anything else, I was fine. That chain cost me a lot of money, and I was
Yeah.
I was making that money legit, so I paid for that money. And yeah, I had no problem with giving it. I just, that sentimental thing, that's what I had a problem where I'm like, I'm gonna try and see if I could do it.
Under a stressful situation like that, there's the three F's. There's freeze, fight, or flight. Now, freeze is the one that gets us into trouble. Flight can be very effective. If we can remove ourselves from the situation, that's optimal. And then the one is when we have no recourse, we need to fight. We need to be able to fight. We need to be able to get into that fight. But the freeze part, the pausing, the hesitation, that could cause us a lot of issues. In your situation there you just talked of, what if you totally froze and you were unable to move and take that chain off your neck? That could have infuriated your the criminals that were trying to take your chain, and that could have led to harm. You know, you obviously sitting in a car, you didn't have any way to flee other than if you could have put it in drive and drove off really quickly. But and you didn't have a very good opportunity to fight because you're sitting in a car. You're at a disadvantage.
Was my neck stuck out a window, and no, there was a wall in front of me because back then we didn't have Google phones and Google Maps, and where it would take you everywhere. I had to look at a Thomas guide. I haven't used one in so
Yeah,
long. I
yeah,
think that's what they were called, a
yeah,
Thomas guide,
yeah.
because I literally would cover Ventura County, uh, Santa Barbara, Long Beach, all of Greater LA. So I went everywhere, and I got lost through all of Southern California. That's how I got to know it well. But yeah, I was looking at the map book, and they crept up on me, and yeah, uh, looking back on it, I would do it differently. I would be more aware. I wouldn't have my window down like I did, where he was able to just stick his hand in and just try and yank the chain.
Yeah, I mean, but you had an acceptable result, right? You left with your life. You lost some
Yes,
property, and it was sentimental, and that's a shame. But you're here to tell the story, and that's what's important.
that is true. That is true. And so, I hear that if you carry an extra key and you're walking out of your car and they're trying to, let's say, carjack you or steal anything, and you say you want the car, you get the key and you just kind of throw it, and that gives you a split second to hop in your car. Um, what do you think about that? Is that something you recommend, or?
That's a possible solution. It's hard to predict all the circumstances. If that person has a firearm, you pretty much want to do what they want. I was thinking when you said that of a detachable key fob where you could throw them the fob and they would have your key and they could leave with your car, but you would keep like your home keys and things like that so that they didn't also have access to your home. Of course, that's kind of a hard one to say right now because most people have garage door openers in their car or built into their car. So if they looked in your glove box and saw where you were residing, they could, just go to your home, use that, and open up the garage and probably gain access. Something to think about if that was to happen. Your first call would probably be back to your home to make sure that everybody there gets out. Because if they were following through by going to your home to ransack it, you obviously wouldn't want them there.
And what do you think about doing Christmas shopping, say like at a mall, and you
Yeah.
don't want to keep carrying the bags, so you go and you stick them in the trunk, and then you go back shopping. Is that recommended?
Yes. And so as you're doing that, as you're going to your car, you want to be alert. You want to be looking around. You want to see if anybody's watching you do that because they could be looking for a target. And if they see you putting packages in your car, then they know there's a car that has items to take. So you want to make sure that nobody's actually, observing you do that. You want to do that quickly and efficiently. You want to put it in the trunk if at all possible. If you don't have a trunk and you're putting it in the back seat, have a blanket with you and cover it up. You don't want to be having like high end bags sitting on the back seat where somebody can just walk by and see it, because they're going to take the opportunity for a smash and grab or take the chance, because most cars are going to have an alarm go off. But if they know there's some high end product sitting there that you just purchased, they're going to probably take that opportunity to smash it and try to go versus smashing a car where they have no idea what's inside of it. That's just pot luck, basically. They're just taking a smash and the possibility of being arrested on the odd chance that you have something in there that they want. So let's not give them information that they can use to capitalize to make us a victim.
Yes, I've been a car theft victim like 3 times, and each time I learned from it. I'm like, I'm not leaving anything valuable. Like last, one of the last times they broke in, but they literally left it alone because there was nothing to take. Like they opened it and there was nothing for them to take. So I just
And
know they
nothing you
broke
can do
in.
in that situation, right? Because they're going to just take the chance that they're going to bet on the come that it's going to be something in there they want.
Yeah, all
And
they did was ruin my car door and had to replace the lock. But
yeah,
I mean, that time they got nothing. So I was kind of like, yeah, you wasted your time, and hopefully you got caught somewhere else.
exactly. So yeah, so when we come into the season, as you said, this document that I prepared that you've posted has a lot more than just moving around and not being a victim of a crime from a criminal. But let's not do things that put us in situations where we could get hurt. So part of it is talking about decorating safely. You're going to have a lot of people up on ladders doing things that they don't normally do. Maybe they're not in the best of shape, but this is the time of year when they get up on that ladder and they put up those lights and they put that inflatable Santa up on the roof. Thousands and thousands and thousands of visits to emergency rooms at this time with people that are trying to decorate and they get themselves in trouble. Maybe their ladder isn't a safe ladder. Maybe they haven't upgraded their ladder in a lot of years. It's just old and rickety and in disrepair, before we start elevating ourselves off the ground, we want to make sure that ladder's stable and that it's in good working order. Um, I've had a friend that was decorating one time and fell down and had a catastrophic hip injury, and he does still to this day he doesn't walk the same, and it took him months and months and months to recover from that. So let's avoid those type of things. Have a spotter with you. I know it's not always convenient, but let's be safe because we don't want to end up in a bed in traction during the holidays. I mean, that would be horrible.
I never really thought about getting hurt decorating, besides like on the Griswolds and movies and the Christmas
Yeah.
vacations, something crazy like that. But uh, you know, some people may hear this and be like, "Yeah, that's too much." But I think just even to consider it is good, and to have some sort of backup plan or some sort of emergency. Especially like if you fall and you don't have your cell phone with you, how are you going to call for help if no one's around?
Yeah, and these cell phones are so smart and these watches are so smart that if you fall, it actually registers that you had a very jolting experience and it can actually call 911 for you. So that's a nice little backup. But we can't overly rely on technology in all things. So
Yeah,
best not get in the situation.
that's interesting. You mentioned that. I didn't know that, but my watch did go off. I have the Apple Watch. It's the older series, but I was trail running and I fell, but I didn't like. And it asked me if I needed help or something. I was like, whoa, that was pretty interesting.
My mother's of advanced age, and so there was a point where we were talking about getting one of those call bracelets and everything. And the watches came out, and they were so much better. She just wears the watch all the time, and it'll register if she falls. She can just ask Siri to call 911 and all that kind of stuff. So uh, that's kind of was our solution that she could get a hold of me immediately, or actually get a hold of emergency services. So we forego the uh, necklace you wear around your neck and everything. It was a lot easier for her to wear the wristwatch.
I really like it, especially the way it syncs to the phone. It gives all the information. So thank you everybody for joining in. There is a link right there on the fortune cookie, which gives you a free 17-page color document that has a lot of useful information as far as safety. It covers more than just like you would think, just like shopping. It covers pet safety, travel, uh, decorating, gift. I was just kind of looking over it and about how many people get hurt or kids getting like hurt from those toys that they get. That was interesting.
Yeah, so it's we need to think about the entire home when we gift children. So there may be an 8 or 9 year old that you're getting a gift for it, but there may be a 3 year old in the home too. And so if you're doing that, you need to gift appropriately. You don't want to give the 8 year old a toy that's going to have small parts and pieces that are going to be a choking hazard for the little sibling. And sometimes people don't think that all the way through. So we need to gift appropriately for the entire home.
And for everyone listening in, what today's December 7th, so this is Merry Fitness Day 7 out of 31, and every day I have a different outfit. And today's outfit is related to what we're talking about: is basically not letting the Grinch take advantage and steal your gifts. So today's outfit is a do you even gift, bro? And see the fitness. So Yosh, you being so far the only guest to have returned, and looks like you're my safety expert here that I go to. What can we do to stop the Grinch from stealing our gifts?
So yeah, let's talk about this is something that's not in the document. So let's hit this really quick. Porch pirates. There's been a rise of porch piracy in the United States with the extended use of online shopping. Now, they've done a good job with these companies and these delivery companies of being able to track your package. So you know exactly, or not exactly, but within a few hours of when it's going to hit your doorstep. So you can gauge that appropriately. Now, with the expanded use of the Ring doorbell and some of these other doorbells, we also can get a notification right on our phone right when that person comes up and puts that package on our doorstep. So that's going to help us to lessen the amount of time that it's sitting there exposed. I have a friend that's in Texas that just told me that they just passed legislation making porch piracy a felony. So they're taking
Wow.
it seriously. But then there's other things that they've put in place. So, like UPS, you can designate a local UPS store and have your package delivered there. You show up with your ID, they hand it to you, it's free of charge, no big deal. Then there's no chain of custody break, right? Because it's coming from the UPS driver to the store and then into your hands. They're doing the same thing with those Amazon lockers. If you order something on Amazon and it can fit into a locker, you can request that it goes to one that's close by to your home. They throw it into a numbered locker. They send you a QR code. You walk up to it with the number, in your phone, show them the QR code for the scanner, and your locker opens up, and now you've got you've got custody over your package without leaving it on your doorstep. And then the old fashioned way is, knowing your neighbors. I've had a few packages over the last few months that beat the delivery date. And so I get a text message saying, "Hey, your package is out for delivery." And I'm going, "Hey, I'm in another state or another city." So I text my neighbors and, I just say, "Hey, could you grab this? I'm out of town," or whatever. And they'll pick it up and hold on to it till I get back. So that's always a great backup plan too, so that you don't have your packages sitting out on your porch. All of that I did not include in the document, so that's a little extra there. Um, let's talk about things that aren't related to shopping. There was one thing I'm thinking of right now is where people are firing up their fireplaces, and they haven't been using them for a while. So in some places, you have to have those things checked. You need to actually hire a chimney sweep, or you need to get the tools yourself because the soot accumulates inside of the chimney and it becomes a fire hazard. So things that we need to think of outside of being criminals actively getting to us is that creating conditions in our homes that are going to start a fire. And if you've never gone onto YouTube, please do so after this broadcast and put in Christmas tree fires. And you'll find countless videos of fire departments recreating a living room with a dried fire, with a dried out tree, and you'll be amazed at how fast an ignition point on a dried Christmas tree can engulf an entire room and fill it up with smoke. So when we get that tree, we need to make sure that we cut the bottom 2 inches off of it, get it into water right away, and monitor it. And when it gets to be really dry, it's the end of the Christmas tree season, and we need to take it down and put it away and get it out of our home because it is an extreme fire hazard. Make sure it's not closer than 3 feet from a fireplace. I know the iconic picture is that Christmas tree snugged up against that fireplace, but we need to make sure that we're keeping our home safe during the holidays because, as we said, having things happen during the holidays is a very marring event in your family's history, and you don't want to have the memory of 2021 being the year that you had a Christmas tree fire and you lost all your presents and the home was at risk and your family's lives are at risk. It's just not worth it. If you buy an artificial tree, get one that's fire resistant. Open flames candles. People like to put candles. Christmas candles are very popular. Just make sure they're put in proper places. Don't leave them unattended. Make sure you blow them out when you go to bed at night. Turn off the lights when you go to bed at night. Just being a little more vigilant because there are things that we're putting out in our homes that normally aren't out. And so we have to adjust our behavior to make sure that we're operating them properly and not letting them get out of control.
I'm definitely gonna YouTube the Christmas tree. Uh, I'm a big fan of YouTube, and you were mentioning the stealing of the porch items, and on YouTube, there's like a couple of different guys that I watch. They're
Mm-hmm.
like one guy he deals with hackers, and another guy deals with like packages, and they kind of all combined, and uh, it, I'm sure I can't think of their names, but they come up with a box, and it evolved, and basically the box is lays on a mat, which is charging the box the whole time. So it has a tracker, and so that when the person steals the box, it stays charged and it tracks them GPS. And then when they open it, it does a glitter bomb and it starts throwing a fart spray like 8 times. And then it says like it gives a countdown 10 and the people are like, oh fuck, and they're trying to cover it up and throw it in the trash, or some people will dump it, and then it says you are now being, and it makes it sound like the cops are coming, and they usually do. It's very entertaining. I wish glitter
Yeah,
bombs were on all the boxes somehow, that people stole them, and th- one person got pulled over and they were trying to explain how they had glitter all over them, like act all casual about it, like some sort of mark that you can't like deny, like, yeah, that was me, I stole the package.
yeah, those are fun to watch, and those guys were pretty ingenious, and they were actually putting real cell phones in some of the packages so they could track them, and it was pretty amazing the extremes they went to. So, but I find it a lot easier to go pick it up at my UPS store myself, so it takes a lot
That's a
less
great
time on
idea.
my day. So,
Yeah.
one thing we should talk about, and this doesn't, happen. Well, it does kind of happen a lot. So, since 2004. There's been $5.2 million worth of damage done by people trying to deep fry turkeys. Now,
I've heard about this.
the thing is that they did it indoors or they did it underneath the eaves of their home because it was hot or icy and snowing, not hot. And the big fatal flaw with that is that they tried to put a frozen turkey into hot boiling oil. And if you want to see some amazing pyrotechnics that rival what you saw in the movie Backdraft, go and see these fire departments putting frozen turkeys into boiling oil. You get a 20-foot spiral explosion of flame. It is ridiculous. So be aware if this is the year you're deciding you want to deep fry a turkey, make sure that sucker's thawed. Make sure that you have that fryer out in a very open area and just be careful. Be very careful. It can cause a dangerous situation. I think there's been since 2013, 154 turkey fires.
Wow. I hope that's on YouTube as well, so I can check that out. That
They
sounds
are, and you'll be
yeah.
amazed.
Yeah, some things you don't really realize till it happens, and there you go, people. Do not throw frozen turkeys into what? Boiling bats of oil?
Yes, yeah, that's what it is. They're dropping it into oil, and the reaction is epic.
Have you have you ever had a deep fried turkey?
I have not, and I probably
Okay.
will not. It just doesn't sound very healthy, and as we just spoke about, it sounds pretty dangerous. So I'd
I
rather
did
not be
have it
burned.
once. I gotta say it was pretty good. Probably,
Yeah.
you know,
All right.
because sometimes turkey could be dry,
Mm-hmm.
so it was okay. It was okay.
My
It was
wife's a
good.
master at turkeys. They're always nice and moist, so I don't have
Uh,
to really worry about it. But appreciate that about her. Um, let's do some children safety during the holidays. My number one tip is that why take the children? I mean, obviously there might be some times that you want them to go out and select a gift, but if you're trying to knock out your Christmas list, get with a friend and swap kids. You know, you watch their kids and then they watch your kids. You're going to go out, you're going to be less distracted. It's a heightened time of year to be watching your children because there's so many people in the malls and out shopping doing things. You want to be very vigilant about not losing contact with them. We don't want to be letting them go to the restroom by themselves. And if you've got two or three kids in tow, how effective are you going to be in knocking out your shopping list? I mean, you're trying to find a good deal. You're trying to find the perfect gift, and maybe you don't know exactly what you want for your spouse. So, all of that stuff is going to detract from you getting it done efficiently so that you can take yourself out of a situation. You can take yourself out of a transitional space, such as moving towards your car with all of your packages. And now you've got your children with you. And as you're putting your children into their car seats, your packages are sitting there. Somebody could just drive by, jump out of their car, grab your packages, and be gone, right? And you're going to have no opportunity to probably even get a good idea of what the person looked like or their car description because you're busy with the children. So I would say, unless it's a targeted trip where you want to take them out and have them select a present for a parent or the grandparent or the sister, the sibling, um, try to work it out to where you get a lot of your shopping done without them. I think everybody will be safer. You're going to be moving more efficiently into that transitional space. You get out to the car, you get your packages in the car, you get in your car and you leave. Don't loiter in a parking space looking at your phone. In general, and I say this all the time, and people generally don't like it very much, don't pull your phone out in public. Don't be distracted. Print out a list instead of having your phone out. Print out a physical list of the gifts that you're going to get. When you're looking at a phone, you go way up in the hierarchy of criminals. They want to, they're more likely to want to steal from you if they think your attention's in your phone. If you have a printed list, you're not going to be looking at your phone in a way that they're going to think that your situational awareness has gone from everything that you can see within sight to 6 inches in front of your face. And you don't want to loiter in transitional spaces such as a parking space. First of all, there's probably people trolling looking for your space, so you don't want to sit there checking your messages for 20 minutes because they're not going to think that you're very charitable at this time of year. But secondly, you don't want to be sitting there as a stationary target because then anybody could approach your car and demand stuff from you. You want to be efficient. You want to get in, you want to get out. if you even go to the malls at all. Take a friend with you. Do your shopping together because it can probably make you more efficient if you have a lot of packages. Your transitions into the car, you'll be able to do that probably more efficiently. And monitor your conversations when you're doing that, when you're out with a friend. Imagine somebody that has ill intent just falling behind in earshot. And you're talking about the great gifts that you've bought for everybody. And you're talking about how you're going to open gifts in the morning and then you're all going to go to grandma's house later and you'll be gone the rest of the day. If they follow you home, they now know your schedule and they know what's going to be in your home. So things like that you might just not, really think about, but monitor what you're saying in public because people could be listening.
Yeah, I heard that about like the stickers on the minivans. If the people put it with their family. Well, now you're basically telling them you have two daughters or three daughters and one boy and a dog or no pets. So the house is like it. People are doing it as a not in a bad intention, but those people that are Grinches this time of year or all the time of year doesn't matter. But it seems like it's more heightened or and some of those videos that the people got caught, it was sad. Like one was like a young kid, he was like under 18, and he told his mom in the video because it's recording, he's like, I stole it. He's like, I felt good. And she's like, okay, well, consider it your Christmas present from me. I was like, what are you teaching your kid?
Mm.
Like, you're teaching your kid that it was okay for him to steal the package, and then somehow because he stole the package, that's your gift to him. I'm like, wow, what is wrong? And those are the people that it's not their fault, but that's how you know we get some messed up society out here, and then they go out and try and duplicate with what they were kind of raised with.
So I just the last few days had conversations with people that are active law enforcement. One was in DC area, one's in Tennessee, and they've both been telling me that crime is on the rise this particular holiday season. That there are more robberies taking place. There's more home invasions taking place, and there's home invasions taking place at like office parties. So they're
Wow.
bum rushing in and they're taking stuff. That gifts are being exchanged,
Oh,
personal items. And we had a high profile murder here in Southern California last week. A well known philanthropist, multi-million dollar home, the nice area. And they home invaded her property and she ended up dead. So, this is just more stuff that we have. Unfortunately, this time and age in 2020, 2021, we're seeing a rise in all this. I think we're seeing a lack of response from uh, police to actually go out and police, and that's not really the police officer's fault. That's the people that are in charge of them and the politicians over them that are making this happen. In California, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, they're not even going to arrest you unless you steal over $1,000 worth of stuff if they even feel like they're going to do that. Mainly, they're going to give you a ticket and tell you to report at court, which, as we know, any good criminal is going to show up at the appointed time and take his lumps. It just doesn't happen. So now we're starting to see these orchestrated 80 people running into a Nordstrom's in Northern California and looting the place. Um, it's insane. So even that right there should give you pause on whether or not you even want to be out shopping at a center this time of year, this particular season, because those type of things are going down, and you don't want to be caught up in those type of situations. So this may be the perfect year for online shopping.
yeah, I don't think ever, like in my history of I've known of times where people will plan things, but now with online, it just makes it so much easier for like 80 people to get together and go commit a crime. And I heard the majority of them got caught, but they have to be released on bail because something about the amounts of money, and it's always the politics. I saw some recent like mini documentary. I think might have been the Wall Street Journal on YouTube, and they were showing in San Francisco how bad it is that people are literally going and like estimating about $895 in stealing it right in front of people's, and then they walk out because the cops won't even come if it's not over like $1,000. And it's just getting worse and worse in a lot of places. And uh, uh, I guess there's many things we can do, but I think the best thing is how you're trying to get people to be responsible for their own safety. Because that's
Yep.
the best thing we can do. Bottom line, I've been at points where I've called 911 and I'm being transferred to different departments. So the help is not going to be there immediately. Uh, Unfortunately, I've been in one situation where I got robbed. I got robbed a lot growing up. I was in a
Yeah, it
bus and there
sounds
was,
like it.
I had to do public transportation. So I was in the bus and a couple gangsters, they jacked me, it was like a CD player, right? And I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to fight you for it. Keep it. And so I let him keep it, and I'm walking out, and I'm already feeling kind of like a little, basically, in my opinion, just like a sissy. And then he punches me on the way out, and I was like, oh hell no, that got me going. And I had a mouthpiece in my pocket for some reason because I did a lot of boxing back then. So I put it on. Called him out, and he didn't want to come out or his buddy. And then there was a police officer right there, and the bus takes off. And I'm like, I ran to the car and I kind of startled him. I'm surprised he didn't shoot me, but I told them, and I hopped in the car and we pulled over. And they roughed him up. They pulled him out. They told me if I wanted to press charges, and I didn't. But they had like warrants for something else, even though they were like probably this we're probably under 18, 16, 17. But they still took them away because of the other things they had done. So I was happy I got my stuff back, and they got embarrassed, and that was like the one time when the cop was right there at the right time. But normally that doesn't happen, and you have to
Yes.
be. Unfortunately, that was just like so random. But yeah, I've been a place where it's more up to what I do than the police is going to be there.
Yeah, and the response time is the response time, and the response time one time can be 3 minutes, and the next time it could be 45. You just don't know. We don't know what calls they've been drawn away on. We don't. Well, we do know that we've had mass resignations of police officers all across the country because certain social pressures or with medical pressures, they've decided to opt out, and just probably the feeling of general lack of not no support for them. So now we've got a big hole in coverage, right? Or we've got people that are probably working way too much, and so their effectiveness is going to drop. So now we have to, consider that. And if there's some kind of a major traumatic event, a bus crashes, a city bus crashes or something, they're going to be pulling a lot of those resources. And when we start talking about first aid, being your own first responder, you can be in a location in a city where you have a 6 or 8 minute response time for an EMT, but we're never guaranteed that. It's nowhere do you read anywhere in anything that you could find on any website saying that the city of so and so is going to guarantee a response of the EMTs in 8 minutes, you know? And depending on the type of injury that somebody incurs, let's say it's a big laceration on an arm or leg, you may not have 8 minutes. Even if they show up at the appointed time or when you think their response time is going to be, that could be too late for a traumatic injury. So it's on us to go out and seek some first aid training. And it's basic fundamental first aid training. It's learning how to apply a tourniquet. If you have a tourniquet on hand and you know how to apply it, you can even apply it to yourself within a minute or two. And that could be the difference because 8 minutes from now, you may not have enough blood in your body to support your life. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it happens all the time. Compound fracture, we call an open fracture now. We used to call them compound fractures. Where you break a bone. Let's say you fall off of that ladder and you break a bone and the bone is sticking out of your leg and now you're bleeding profusely. You've got to stop that bleeding until help can come and they can transport you to help. Um, I just was talking about this the other day, but being able to recognize somebody having a stroke. We're going to be around a lot of family members, and maybe we're around some older family members, elderly uncles and grandfathers and great grandfathers. Let's be able to identify stroke because the biggest factor in stroke is time. So we use an acronym called FAST, and FAST is the identifiers for someone that's having a stroke. The first one is face. So if you're looking at somebody's face and they appears that their face is drooping, like they don't have control, it's like melting down their side. That's one of your indicators. The second indicator is their arms. If you ask them to put their arms up like this, palms up in front of them, and you start to see one drift, they just can't keep it up or they can't keep either of them up. That's a second indicator that they're experiencing a stroke. And then S stands for slurred speech. If they start saying words and they can't get, they sound like they're drunk. So they sound like they're drunk and their face is drooping and they have no control over their arms. They're most likely having a stroke. And the T in FAST stands for time because it doesn't matter what the response time is of the EMT. They do not have the appropriate drugs to dissolve a blood clot, which is going up into the brain. That's exactly what a stroke is. It's starving the brain of oxygen. And the faster you can get to an appropriate facility where a doctor can administer, because there's several different drugs, they can administer the appropriate drugs to break up that blood clot, the less damage is going to happen to the brain. And I'm sure we're probably all aware of somebody that had a stroke and they had to relearn how to speak or they had to relearn how to walk. Well, that was all a function of the time it took to get them to the appropriate care. So, just a little first aid tip I'm going to throw in there is understand how to identify a stroke.
No, that's great information. Thank you for providing that. I was thinking about what you mentioned that we could have so many great Christmases, and I hope everyone has a great Christmas this year. And but a lot of times we remember the bad ones, and hopefully that could be prevented. Uh, I used to work for a bank for 10 years, and when I was working in just like consumer, which is like regular people, I would take calls for people, like what's my balance, why is my card, I didn't make this charge, and I'm gonna say majority of the calls I took, people were pricks, just straight up dickheads, like no regard for the person on the other phone. So if you call anywhere, be nice to the person. They're people. But besides that, I took a lot of calls. A lot of people were pricks. A lot of people were reporting fraud. A lot of people were just bullshitting. And one call that I got, because the call center is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because there's always fraud going on, and you got to be able to shut down debit cards. Uh, so I'm working Christmas Day, and I take a call, and this guy, he's being a dick, like a real dick. And compared to the other ones that I have already been taking call, I would take about 80 to 120 calls per day, day after day. So I was kind of used to hearing it all. But this guy was being a straight dick, and it was Christmas Day. And then all of a sudden he's gone. And then his wife gets on the phone and she starts telling me, I'm sorry, we just came home. The house has been robbed. And I'm like, oh man, that sucks. And I told her, okay, I understand. Put him back on. And I'm like, hey, sir, I heard what happened. I'm sorry to hear that. Vent, do what you got to do. I'm ready whenever you are. And I don't want anyone to go through that. So if it's preventable by maybe turning on some lights or, locking the door, I know it hasn't happened. They attempted to pull me out of the car, but my doors were locked beforehand. If you have an older car, most cars do that now, but a lot of these things are just preventable just by being alert, throwing a victim, like not paying attention. Uh, when you walk out and you're just like all zombied out on your phone, like you were mentioning, Yosh. So uh, I don't want anyone to experience that. And if it's preventable, hopefully, the cool thing about Fireside now is it's simulcast. And so it's being simulcast on YouTube, Facebook, and then I created a Twitch account, but I forgot to hook it up. So it'll be simulcast on Twitch soon, and yeah, and everyone else who's just listening on the stream, hopefully you don't have to go through this, and you can take something. Just go to Fireside or Yosh. Besides, if the people who are just listening on the stream or simulcast don't get that link, how can they get that link? It's free. It's 17-page colored document with different holiday tips.
Oh, yeah, good idea. Well, you can contact me via my website, which is sheepdogdefender.com, and just request the document, and I'll send you a link that'll let you download it. That's one way to do it. That's probably the best way to do it. And my email address is on there as well. So you can go up to the website and then you can see the type of instruction that I offer. All these layers of personal protection. I'm going to be doing a free intro to firearms seminar soon. So if you sign up through there, you'll get a notification about when that's going to happen. And that's about an hour, and that'll take you from knowing nothing about firearms into the different platforms. We're talking about handguns, pistols, rifles, shotguns, and then also some of the history behind the firearm, some myths behind firearms, then basic operation parts of it, all the way through to safety, the four universal rules of firearm safety. And then we'll talk about what you might experience at a range with typical range commands, how to dress, how to act at a range if you were to go there and try to go shoot for the first time. So it's just kind of a quick overview of everything that you might want to know, especially if you've never been around a firearm, especially
And
as
is
I
that
said,
going to be
especially the four
online?
universe. It's going to be live webinars, so I will be posting times that I'll be doing that. So that's coming up very soon. I'm just trying to figure out the best dates. It's a real hard time of year because
Yeah.
everybody's so busy with the holidays. So I haven't quite decided if I'm going to try to get one off here before the end of the year or if I'm just going to wait for the new year to roll over and then start offering that. I have a lot of people through the Clubhouse community that have been asking me for something. So, and most of my instruction was based on in person. So I've had to repurpose a lot of the teaching stuff that I do to be able to do one of these live webinars on Zoom. So aside to that free one, I'm going to be offering actual webinars too. One on personal protection, which is some of the stuff that we talked about, but we'll talk about the color code of awareness. I have what I call the ABCs of Sheepdog Defender personal protection. We've talked about that in the previous podcast. So I'll be going through that. A lot of little tips and tricks about how to operate safely in the world. And then I also going to have one about home defense safety, how to create a home defense plan, how to make little adjustments to your home that are going to make it less likely to be burglarized. Because burglars will drive down a street and they'll have a little mental checklist. And if you check off enough boxes, they're going to pass your home and go to one that doesn't have those check boxes. We're talking about lighting, we're talking about security systems, we're talking about different little things that you can do. And then also actual things you can do, simple things that you can do to make a better barrier of the perimeter of your home. And then actually a plan. What happens in the bump in the night when there's a challenge? Does everybody have a job? And even a young child can have a job, whether that's just to stay put until mommy and daddy come to you, or an older child might have more expanded role in what happens in a challenge that's facing the home. Just everybody understanding what they're supposed to do is going to put you so much farther ahead than people that haven't sat down and talked about it at all. So those are going to be coming up, if not before the end of the year, at the first of the year.
Uh, I love all that information you're providing. I hope people take advantage, especially that gun. How you're saying it takes you from beginning, novice to getting some basic idea. And yeah, I know you're saying because you were an in-person instructor, and I don't know if you're still doing that, but with laws being different in different states, is it even more difficult to kind of repurpose your content for that or to
Well,
create
since
it
this is
differently?
general information, I'm not really
Hmm.
talking anything that would get somebody in trouble, like law specific stuff for different states and jurisdictions. It's just more of, hey, this is what firearms are. I've seen them on TV, but I've never touched one. It's going to give them some basic information. Now, the people that are in my area, it goes a step further. Not only is the seminar free, but then I actually take them to a range and I let them fire a couple rounds through a pistol, through a rifle, and through a shotgun. So it gets to the point where they actually get to have their first experience.
Oh,
And
nice.
so that's very valuable because you know, we need to be out there and outreaching the people that don't understand firearms, because once they understand that they're a tool, and they're a tool that needs to be respected, but they're not a tool that is designed to go out and create evil. It's used in that purpose in rare instances, but in a many, many cases every year, there's a brand new survey out on firearm usage. And the researcher came up with 1.6 million times a firearm is either declared by somebody, it's a legal carrier, shown by somebody that's a legal carrier, and in rare instances, it's actually used. But 1.6 million times a year, it stops a crime from happening.
Hmm.
So
That
yeah, we have highlighted on the news when people go out and they misuse firearms, but the 1.6 million times you'd have to go digging for, and I do have certain feeds that show me, hey, so and so was at home, a lady with 3 children, and people tried to break into her house, and she used her firearm defensively, whether it was just a show, hey, I've got a gun, or showing it to them, that stopped them from doing their criminal activity and they left the premises or in the street. I mean, just all these different instances. So firearms do have a good use in this country, and very few firearms are ever used to take somebody's life. When you look at the number of firearms in this country and then how many times we actually experience murders on an annual basis, the numbers don't even match up at all.
that is basically the whole thing is just prevention. And yeah, I mean, to me, I mentioned this before. I'm not a big fan of guns at all, but I don't also disagree with people owning them as well. But the people that do own them should definitely be trained, because I'm sure accidental shootings is a big thing as well. And I personally know some victims of that as well. So people
Yeah, we've
need
talked
to,
about this before. And
yeah,
on
safe.
average, about 1,100 people die from a negligent discharge every year. And unfortunately, we just had a very high profile example of that because of the shooting of the assistant photography director on the set of Rust in Santa Fe. She lost her
Oh,
life, and that was a negligent discharge. Um, and those are 100% preventable. That's 1,100 lives a year on average that we don't need to lose. But that only comes with education, and that's one of the reasons I do the free intro to firearm safety, so that people can learn the 4 universal rules of firearm safety. Because if those rules were followed, that woman would still be alive. If those rules were followed, the other thing that was very prominent was the closing argument in the Kyle Rittenhouse case when the assistant district attorney took an AR-15 and was waving it around the courtroom. That that is not acceptable. That's not allowed. That was breaking the 4 rules of firearm safety, and he should have known better. And it's pretty amazing that that was allowed to occur. And if you understood those rules, so I promote those rules. I want everybody to understand them. Even if you don't own a firearm and you never intend on owning a firearm, let's say you're somewhere at family at Christmas and somebody has a firearm out. And if you know the 4 rules and you see them mishandling the firearm, you can take them aside and tell them, hey, you can't do that. That's not safe. Or if you're somewhere and it's somebody you don't know and they're mishandling firearms, you're going to have enough information to say, I need to get out of here because this is not a safe situation. So everybody should know those, whether or not you ever intend to own a firearm or not.
when I was younger, I would walk into homes and I would run into situations where people had firearms. Now, being older and hanging out with different types of crowds, I don't get into those type of situations. But yeah, even at the time, I just sensed something wasn't right, that I should leave, and I didn't. I stayed at the time, but I knew something wasn't right, and I haven't been properly educated on gun safety or anything. But it just didn't feel right for me. I'm like, I felt in danger the whole time, and
Here's a
and
real quick 3-step way to teach your children when they're younger. Number one, if they see a firearm, don't touch it. Number two, they go tell an adult. Actually, number see the firearm, don't touch it, and then go tell an adult. So it's 3 steps. It's a simple program that was brought out and taught in schools 40, 50 years ago, but it's not anymore. And, some of those negligent discharges, we talked about that 1100, are unfortunately kids finding an unsecure firearm, messing around with it, either shooting themselves or their sibling or their friend. And once again, 100% preventable. And if they just understood, if you have children in your life, tell them, see it, don't touch it, tell an adult. It's very simple to get even to smaller children to understand that.
And with that, I think that's great advice, and hopefully it reaches the right ears. And like, man, everyone have great holidays, great Christmas, great Hanukkah, great Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Stay safe. This will probably be like the I don't even want to say it's not down, but this is what we need. We need to be aware. That way you can have a good Christmas. So after this, I will return with more guests. Probably won't be as I don't know. I don't want to call it dark. What's a good word for it? Uh, hmm.
It comes to just being aware, and if we can heighten our awareness a little bit and think about something just for a couple extra seconds and get through the holidays without incident, what's that worth? That's worth everything, isn't it?
And yes, and that's what I hope everyone has. So thank you so much for joining Merry Fitness
Thanks
Day
for
7
having
out of
me.
31. Thank you for coming back and being my first returning guest. If you want to get in contact with Yosh, one is you can go back and listen to the past episode. It is available everywhere, Amazon, Spotify, on and on. And you can go on here on Fireside as well. And then you can contact him through the link, or you can find the old episode and I have all his information. And when this episode is out, it'll have the information as well. So thank you everybody for joining in the audience, in the simulcast, in the streams, and everyone who listens also around the world. In the last 2 days, I got Australia as a new listener. Thank you. And what is it? Something, and I don't even want to mispronounce it because then it would be like that's not a thanks. It's like it's got like 3 letters in it. West Arab or East Arab. I can't even think of it. I'll get back to you on
United
that.
Arab Emirates,
Yeah, that's it.
UAE.
They I don't know why I couldn't think of their name, but yeah, they joined in. So thank you, whoever it is out there listening. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow, my guest will be David, who was if I'm remembering correctly, a captain from the Navy in a nuclear like submarine and a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So
All
uh,
right.
it'll be very interesting to hear his whole Merry Fitness day 8. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Merry
Yosh,
Christmas.
and Merry Christmas. I'll see you, everybody, tomorrow.